This is For the Creators.
Welcome back to For the Creators, where it's our job to demystify creativity. I'm Ryan Now. I'm an artist, producer, and co-host of the show. Today we sit down with Maiday. Maiday is an artist and songwriter. Her email signature reads, "Some girls get sent flowers, I get sent beats." And there's a good reason for that. Although an artist in her own right, she is an incredible songwriter for other artists too. She has hits including Don't Go by Rich 32, which reached number 1 in the UK charts. Maiday has also made hits with Machine Gun Kelly, Jack Wobb, Leona Lewis, and Girls Aloud, just to name a few. Maiday has brand new music of her own dropping in July, which I've had the pleasure of listening to, and I can tell you it's sick. So make sure you keep an eye out for that after you hear this episode. In today's episode, we focus on songwriting and what goes into making a great song. I got a lot from this episode and I hope you do too. So please enjoy my sit down with Maiday. So welcome to the show, Maiday.
Thanks.
I mainly wanted to explore your obsession with lyrics and how you became such a good songwriter. How did that begin for you? Was you always interested in words or books or?
One of the main things I always think of is, and I've got a snapshot, I feel like it's coming out of church or something, when I used to go with my mum and she was having a conversation with a grown-up and she was using words. I was like, "Mum, what does that mean? What does that mean?" And I'd love hearing adult conversations and hearing the vocabulary and being like, "Oh, what does that mean? I don't know what that means." And then when I was in school, I was in a teeny tiny. I'm from Worcestershire, right out in the sticks. My school was very small. There were 7 people in my year, including me. And so things
in your year?
In my year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. There were 3 classrooms.
Wow.
Yeah, super small. And so things were quite relaxed in a sense. Basically, I think that for whatever reason, my teachers could see that I loved reading and writing, and we'd be given like write a story about this or whatever, and I would start and then everyone else would finish and I would be only halfway through and I would just be rambling on about these like mad imaginative things, and they'd just let me go off and do that when other classes would continue. So it was nurtured quite a bit. It was quite relaxed in that sense. And I would I used to really love Noddy, that really intellectual stuff. So I remember sitting in the tiny little library for hours just reading Enid Blyton and all kinds of storybooks because I could read quite well quite young. And also where I grew up, there wasn't really anything to do.
Uh-huh.
And I definitely cite that as a reason why. So there was 7 people in my year. And those 7 people did not live where I lived. So I didn't have mates around all the time.
Oh.
But I had lots of fields and sky and trees and time and quiet. And you kind of have to make your own fun. Mm-hmm. So your brain will just take you wherever you want it to. So definitely growing up and also having parents that financially and stuff, they were completely cool, but me and my sister never had the stuff that all our friends had. We weren't spoiled. We weren't even allowed the same snacks. We had to have a piece of fruit at break time. Everyone else had something cool.
A penguin.
Yeah. Or just like a pot of cereal was fucking better than an apple. I used to ask this girl, she used to have this little red pot of Cocoa Pops. I'd be like, "Can I have a few?" She'd give me some in the lid. Yeah. Anyway, so
dodgy dealings in Worcestershire.
We were dealing Cocoa Pops. Yeah. Yeah. So, there wasn't much to do. We weren't given lots of toys. We were always really slow on technology. We were late to get like a video player, late to get the internet and everything. So, you had to use your imagination lots. And I've done it ever since.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So reading and writing was my thing, I guess.
So how did that then translate into music, like songwriting?
I've realised lately, actually, through being told to post more on Instagram, I was like, well, I'm not really a selfie person. And I don't really do that much that I think is interesting enough to share. So I started looking back at music that had influenced me and started like posting about it. I can't remember what the question was.
How did your imagination and reading
so I
and
think
writing?
I realised that listening as a kid, getting hold of your own copies of new music was nigh on impossible until you could drive.
Mm-hmm.
Really, or if you asked for something for your birthday or for Christmas, you didn't just get things like in between. It wasn't that kind of family. So I realised that I learnt a lot from the music that my sister brought back when like she went to uni or when she went travelling, or just being my big sister, 5 years older than me. She was cool. I wanted to be around her. I wanted to be her.
Yeah.
And she hated it. But and I listened to, via her, a lot of female artists. I've realised, like, I was always into just strong female artists who said things and explored things. And I guess I remember like discovering Jagged Little Pill by Alanis Morissette and just being blown away by it. She was so honest and bitter and angry, but also sweet and likable. And I used to get told off a lot for singing too loudly. Particularly some of the lyrics are a bit saucy for like an 8-year-old or however old it was. But yeah, I guess I just thought that was cool. And singing probably made me feel good. And then in school, I did music at GCSE, for example, but I couldn't really play anything. So I sang instead. Then people started telling me that I was good. And my friend played guitar. I thought that was cool. I wanted to be cool. So I started playing guitar.
Right.
And then my writing went from poetry and stories into songs, which are poetry and stories in song form, aren't they?
They are. And that's basically what I wanted to explore, because obviously I write songs and then it's not as poetic as your ones. So yeah, I understand that link. How did you translate that, and how did you then apply melody to your poetry?
In the pop world especially, they will start with melody because it's melody that sells a pop song. It's like melody, production, then lyrics, really. But I find it really hard, because lyrics are so important to me, I find it really hard to shoehorn words into melodies. So when I write, I start with what I'm saying, and the melodies kind of come instinctively with the rhythm of the words or whatnot.
Right.
And so transforming my stories into melodies would have been, I'm on guitar, I feel like this. I feel like I want to say this, but I don't want to have a conversation about it. I don't really just want it to be written down. So I'm going to sing it and see how that feels. And so the melodies would just kind of come from my gut along with the words.
Yeah.
So it's always been all about the feels for me, really. And it's become more about fine-tuning and honing the lyrics, making sure I say it in a way that's smart or in a way that's different, or that will hopefully make people think about things in a slightly different way, maybe. But yeah, I think singing and songwriting and writing in general was always a form of therapy. It was a form of getting out all the stuff that was in my head without having to go and talk to someone about it, because I wasn't used to having people around to talk to, because I'm from the middle of nowhere.
Wow, yeah, that's a good distinction. And
Thanks,
that's carried through to now?
Yeah, I mean, I live in London now. There's people everywhere. Fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
But I still am quite a solitary person. I love people. People are great. I've got some great people in my life. But there is a part of me that is separate. And that comes out in my writing, I think.
And when you write, do you need to be, obviously, like we've written together, and I know you can be in a studio environment, but
I know, but it's been so long.
I know, yeah, we need to do it. Do you prefer to work in a solitary environment in your own imagination, or is it?
So
does it?
It depends.
Differ?
Yeah, it depends. I've made people visibly uncomfortable before in sessions because I don't say anything for ages, and I'm not much of a head bopper. I'm not like up and about in the room being like, yeah, man, this is a smash.
Yeah.
Ooh, here's my ideas, flinging them at the wall.
Yeah.
I'll kind of sit really still, looking at my book or my phone these days. And they won't be able to gauge what's going on until I'm like, okay,
Right.
I have a thing.
Yeah.
Is this a thing? Do you like it? So
that moment is so funny. Like when you're in the room, like from the producer side.
yeah, I
'Cause
know, and I
obviously-
sympathise with it.
Yeah.
But also, I got to do what works for me.
Absolutely. No,
And
I get
the
it.
best sessions are with people who can facilitate that.
Mm.
There's so much more to writing and producing than the writing and the production. It's about what's the energy in the room. Do you feel like it's a space where things can happen? Do you feel like this other person is on your wavelength? And if they're not, are they cool not to be? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I like working on my own, but I really like working with people who are better than me as well. And most people are better than me on every instrument. And, you know, different ideas make for more interesting music.
Absolutely. It's collaborative by nature.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. When you are in those situations in the studio, how do you gauge it? How do you gauge whether this is going to be a wavelength session or whether it's going to be, ooh, this ain't really working?
How do you gauge it?
So I like to have conversations beforehand, first and foremost, just so we're all kind of, because. So for listeners that don't really get how it works in the music industry, a session is when two like parties, i.e. a songwriter and a producer, will meet.
People know what a session is, Ryan.
Some people don't.
They should.
So they meet for the first time and get into a room and start making music.
And that's one of the most interesting bits, is meeting for the first time, because it's so unique in that way. And I'm trying to do less of it. Like session hopping, as it were, is fine, where you're meeting new people all the time and you'll have a day or 2 days to write something. But it's also exhausting because so much of that time is spent gauging who that other person is, what they want from you, what their strengths are, what they expect, and whether you like each other. And I get on with most people, I think, because... Or do I? I don't know. That's not to say I love everyone, but I can make it work.
Yeah.
But yeah, the analogy I would give it is going into a new place of work every day or every other day, and in a new working environment with new expectations and goals, and having that day or the 2 days to fulfill your role, or you're fired. Because if a session doesn't go really well, often it won't happen again.
That is so
It's
real.
a lot of fucking pressure.
That is so real.
Yeah.
I've never heard it expressed like that, but it's proper. That's exactly what it is.
And I've talked to quite a few other musicians and producers about it. Producers feel the same way as writers about this kind of thing, I think. Yeah, it's really exhausting, and we're used to it because we do it all the time. But just recently I've been like, man, this is hard. That is hard. What you do all the time is hard, and it's beyond writing. It's ego management.
Oh, man,
It's self-management, you know, not getting too downhearted. I used to put a lot of blame on myself if a session didn't go really well. I'd assume it was my fault, especially if I felt the other people were more experienced, which is natural. But I've got to a stage now where I understand that it is more about the energy. It's a collaborative thing in so many senses, not just on the writing wavelength, but on the can we all make this work wavelength. So I just try and make the most of whatever I'm flung into these days. What I do want to do more of is working with people I know I click with and that I've worked with before, so you don't have all that stuff, all that kind of, okay, like putting your armour on and going in and trying to kind of impress, I guess.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it is difficult to even do those sessions again because everyone's schedules and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But I think it does take two parties to say, no, look, these are the people that I want to work with. This is the project that we're doing.
Yeah.
You know, or we just want to write because it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been managed for so long that I did kind of get a little bit lazy and just left it all in the hands of management or publishers. But you can't really. You've got to build your own relationships. And if there are people that you really click with, just hit them up yourself and do it directly. Or just make it known that you want to keep working with them. That's the most you can do. You can't control other people's schedules, like you say. But you can just put it out there.
Yeah.
I like you. Can we work some more?
I like you.
I like you.
You like me.
I don't know if you like me, but I like you.
Yeah. Exactly. That's more,
I want to work with you.
that's more real, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's what sessions are like.
The whole factory side of the music industry is like meet these new people every 2 days, like you said. So maybe that could be addressed. But
I wonder, because there's a dynamic of, as a writer, top liner, if you like, I hate that word. It's just a bit lame. But as a writer, you're going in to someone else's gaff, basically. So I wonder if there's a difference there, because you're like, okay, I'm here. I am here, and I need to... I don't know, it's almost like going into someone's home.
yeah.
So there's almost more, I think, more pressure on me. You know, I'm taking their time in their environment, and I don't know. Is that in my head? How do you feel?
I feel the same. So if you was coming in, there's obviously a different process for me than it is for you, because you
feel like you need to
kind of capitalize on you coming in, because
Yeah.
you're a great songwriter. I need to have as many options as possible for you to catch a vibe on.
And what if she doesn't like it?
Honestly.
What if I can't find any chords?
Exactly. Oh my God, that's the worst. That is the absolute worst. Splicers come in handy for that.
I always feel I don't feel a bit bad, but there's that moment where you start in a session and you're like, okay, let's find some chords. And I'm just sat there, and then the guy, or the girl, mainly the guy, is like on keys, like, how's this? Maybe this?
Yeah.
And maybe that. Or they're probably not saying that, but in their head they are. And I'm like, no pressure. Don't feel like you have to find those 4 chords in the next 3 minutes.
Right. But that's how it feels like. Well,
Yeah.
maybe not for everyone. But certainly if you've got 20 beats, you've gone through the 20 and no vibe has been caught, then it's like, ooh, okay, we got to start something from scratch, which is fine. And sometimes it really works out.
And it's better for someone to say, do you know what, I'm not really feeling those, can we start something from scratch?
Yes.
Than them go, that one's all right, let's maybe try it. And they're not really into it.
Yeah.
And then
it's just
that
a
you
waste
get this
of time.
mediocre kind of thing. Even if the beat's good, if they're not really clicking with it, you're not going to get the best out of them.
Yeah. And I realized this. So I stepped away from production for like a year just so I could approach sessions as a songwriter. And I realized, I was like, wow, okay, now I get it from your side. You're going into someone else's studio and then they're playing music. And I'm like, I've got a message that I want to get out. And it's not that the music's not working. The music, all of it's sick, but nothing I've heard is matching with the message that I want to get out. It's not matching with the melodies. Do you know what I mean? And it wasn't until then that I really got it. And I was like, whoa.
And then it's about articulating what it is you want to achieve, which some people struggle with. Some people are really, really good at it. And then the other side is this person going to be receptive? Because you don't want to insult anyone by saying, not really feeling that. This is what I think. There's always that, just managing the dynamic, I guess, and being respectful first and foremost, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, this person has you in their domain and they have played you bits of their soul.
Yeah.
And if it's not for you, finding a way to say that, because it's fine to say that. But
how have you found a way to say that? Has it differed over the years? Have you got better in?
One of the worst things to do is keep plugging away at something that isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
And there's a moment in this session, And sometimes it's more awkward if you've been spending longer on it. But there's a moment in the session where you're like, can we park this and start something else? Because if I've been round it enough times, I get into this cul-de-sac and I can't get out, and I don't know where it's going. And quite often, that first idea that you put to one side and then move on to the next one is like, oh, this is where we wanted to be. Doesn't always happen like that.
Yep.
But you have to be a bit brave to tell someone else who's been working on a beat for maybe 2 or 3 hours, can we start again? Can we do something else?
Yeah.
But it's important to be able to say that.
That comes with the relationships as well. I guess it's more awkward when you've just met someone for the first time.
Yeah. But some people are totally cool with it.
Yeah.
So most people are actually. So.
That's good. Like, going back to our very first session, actually, this is where I realised that, oh, wow, I'm working with a really, really good songwriter here, because you approach the lyrics completely different to any like session that I'd been in before. And I remember I was getting to a point, I was like, this is fucking sick. Like, this is...
Where was that? Where?
That was at Sony ATV.
Was it?
Yeah. In the writer's room.
Was that our first one?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, it was.
What about when you were in East? You were in that weird building.
In Limehouse.
Yeah.
Was that the first one?
I don't know. No, maybe that was after.
That would have been after.
Anyway, I don't know.
So yeah, I think our very first one was in Sony just after we'd signed there. And so previously I had my own idea about how songs were written. I didn't really do sessions as such. So this was like one of the first ones. And I heard the lyrics and the way you approached it. And I think even at the time, I think you had a Tumblr page.
Did I?
Tumblr?
I have had one, yeah.
Yeah, with just lyrics.
Yeah, a little brain dump of things that I liked.
Yeah.
I do that now with Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed, yeah.
I just love words, man.
Definitely.
I know Instagram is for pictures, but mine's just full of words.
I love that.
Thanks.
So I really picked up on it then. And I remember getting to a point in a song and I was like, nah, this is like, let's leave it as it is. Because for me, it's like one of the best things at that point that I'd written. And you was like, nah, it's not good enough. Which I respected, because I was like, okay, I've got a lot to learn here.
Aww.
Just in terms of, because it's like, I was like, yeah, cool. I haven't written something like that that's lifted the way it has and that's delivered a lyric the way it did.
Was it called Wild Horses?
So it had Wild Horses in it, but
Yeah,
it was called
didn't
Public
it?
Enemy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sick. I still want to use it. we need to finish it. But see, you remembered.
Yeah. I've always liked that hook.
Yeah.
It was just a hook, wasn't it, I think?
Yeah, you didn't like the hook.
Oh, because I think it
No,
was...
it's the way it tailed off you didn't like.
Soz.
But we can look into that. So yeah, I really respected it from there, and I was like, ooh. And I learned that maybe, so I had to raise my taste level on actual songwriting and arrangements and things like that. And it really forced me to look into songwriting on its own, because I've always, I hear the music first. If a new song's
you're
out,
a beats guy.
Yeah.
A lot of people, it's interesting. So people listen to music so differently. And I guess maybe the beats guys, the people that hear, oh, what the bass is doing, or what fucking kick is that, or whatever, will become producers. And then always listening to the words, like, oh, this person said this. That's so cool. I want to say something cool. I just always wanted to be cool. It's never happened.
No, you are.
I'm not.
So
Cool's overrated anyway.
cool is overrated. And what is cool anyway?
You. You're welcome.
Thanks. Yeah, I think the way you hear music really, if you do go into music, will kind of determine what you do within it. I've tried to listen to music from different angles, because I do a bit of all of it. I kind of like analyze it from different angles. But songwriting, like the quote unquote top line, it always grabs me last. I can't.
Yeah, that's okay.
It is what it is.
But then that's the magic of it, because when you hear something for the first time, in something that's well produced and well crafted, you will hear this thing the first time. You'll listen to it again. You'll be like, oh, there's that in there, production wise, and then eventually you'll be like, oh my god, this is what this song's about. That's sick. I can relate to that, or not. Which is nice. So it kind of unfolds. And I think it was on another podcast, somebody said, might have been Brian Eno, that listening to music makes it a collaboration with the listener, because they will take from it what they want. They will hear it in their way, which is a form of creation in itself.
Yeah.
Which I think is a really cool way of looking at it, particularly for lyrics that are so a lot of my lyrics are actually quite direct, and it's like quite conversational. You know what I'm getting at.
Yes.
But even then, people will, whatever's going on in their life at the time, they will kind of relate to it in their own way, which is lovely. And that's why I feel really, really grateful and fortunate to be able to, because most of my songs are born out of like being sad or being disappointed or, heartache. Those are the things that make me write the most, probably. And that sucks when it's your heartache and your sadness. But when you, for whatever reason, I've been able to turn it into something that feels good and that can make other people feel good, it's really magic. And I'm so grateful I've got that, because it just puts a little silver lining around everything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is incredible.
Thanks, man. I need to stop saying thanks, man.
Thanks, man.
Little nervous thing.
But so when I hear the song and I hear the lyrics for the first time, that's when I know, for me, it's an amazingly crafted song.
Thanks. And people have said that. They're like, oh, I'm not really a lyric person, but you got me with the first line. I'm a big fan of the first line. I like to either say something a bit, I don't know. It has to be grabby. It has to. The first line has to grab you.
I've read a couple of books about that, and I know you can't really learn songwriting from books, but one tip that I read was like your opening line should almost be the opposite of the chorus. So you paint like an opposite picture, and you bring the listener through that story. Yeah.
I'm just thinking of some of my first lines, and I feel like maybe I do that a bit. Mabes. That's interesting.
Yeah, do you reckon there's a lot of things that you do or that you've picked up naturally? Not naturally, but you've picked up because of your obsession with songwriting.
I'm definitely way better than I used to be. Obviously, that's the natural progression, but there's like an innate in everyone. If there's a talent, there's always room to kind of hone it. And I've always had ideas and I've always had things to say. I've always been quite a wordy writer, and I still am. But now I feel like I know how to thin things down, or where to put certain sentiments so that they have the best impact. I think, not always, but when I write a song that I'm really proud of, I'm like, yeah, I nailed it.
Yeah.
I nailed that because I've said that bit there, and that leads into that properly, and it all kind of flows. And I never used to really, I don't think I used to think that way. I wasn't as critical, I guess, or aware of why things work and why things don't. But,
yeah, I think there's a perception of, you just throw things at a wall and then the best things stick. But there is a craft about it. And I guess where music isn't like you go to uni and you learn it and you get a master's degree in it and then you're ticking all the boxes. It's more of a, you're going through your journey and you pick up these trinkets and these skills along the way, and you do a piece of art that demonstrates your skills. And it's not only, it's until then that you realise that, oh, wow.
I think I'm quite a slow burner as well. I'm a slow burner in all areas.
Me too.
So I'm 34. And I didn't quit my normal job. I had lots of normal jobs before I started doing music. I didn't quit until I was 25. And I remember someone in music once telling me when I was 25, oh, you're the wrong side of 24. Getting on a bit, love.
Yeah.
And it has bothered me in the past when you see people coming up and they're young and they're brilliant and it just seems so effortless. And I'm like, oh my God, I am an idiot.
Yeah.
Everything takes me so long. But maybe this is just a philosophy that's going to help me through it. But I think that the way that I go about things, or the time it takes for me to get my head around things, gives me, I'd like to think, a better perspective on them eventually.
Yeah.
So, and also you have to go through some shit to be able to write about some shit. And I've been through some shit, written about it.
Exactly.
And if, I'm writing music now that I'm so proud of, and there's no way in a million years I would have been writing it when I was 25.
Exactly.
And at 25, you're a grown up. But I'm a proper grown up now.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes.
You do have to go through things. Like I was attempting to write around that age. And it was always very conceptual. This person's doing this, that person's doing that. But it was never coming from a place of experience because I hadn't been through enough even at that point to really draw from that like raw emotion. Whereas now I have, and it's like, okay, I've got topics to draw from, and then it starts to flow a bit, But I think we're in an age where we kind of compare a lot, and it's not good.
Mate, comparison is the worst. I've done loads of that. It does not help. It's a bit like if you look at people you admire, it can push you forward. You'd be like, I think that they are doing that really well, and I want to emulate it. Or I want to feel as proud of myself as they should. But also, a lot of the time, it's just like, oh, God, they're doing better than me. They're better than me. Why are they doing that and I'm not? Yeah. And no one likes me and I'm shit and I should probably just stop. And yeah, that's generally how comparison goes for me.
Exactly. And the funny thing is that you would have someone else looking at you saying the same thing. It's like a vicious loop. No
one's looking at me.
That's how it works, though. It's like there's someone who's a budding songwriter looking at what you've achieved and thinking like, wow. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just weird to view view yourself like that. But because I think we always think like the superstars, and there's like such a massive gap.
Yeah.
But yeah, like comparison is the thief of all joy, they say. And
also, when you're in it, I mean, people talk about this all the time, but when you're in it, you have to remember to appreciate your successes and your achievements, just because there will always be someone else doing something at a higher level. And everyone is working hard and everyone's achieving different things. And it can be really hard to just brush your own achievements under the rug and be like, oh, well, everyone's good. Doesn't matter if I'm good because everyone's good. I need to be better. But contentment, I wouldn't say I'm a massively ambitious person. I really, really like contentment. And I don't think I need to... Am I driven? I am driven. I always want to achieve more things, but I think it's really important to live with the good stuff that's happening right now and the good stuff that has happened. I do see myself as a success. There are more successes I want to have, but I'm a successful person, and that feels nice to be able to say that.
Absolutely. And the success is ultimately defined by you, isn't it? Yeah.
And it is. Other people
Which is where the contentment will come from as well.
Yeah. Contentment is the best. In terms of like success and stuff, I've one of my favorite things is relief, and one of my least favorite things is disappointment. So achievement for me gives me relief. I'm like, oh, thank fuck for that.
Yeah.
I'm not mental. I am doing this for a reason,
Yeah.
and someone else thinks that I'm good too. Yay! Take a deep sigh of relief. And then on the other one is disappointment, like, oh no, that didn't happen like I thought it was gonna.
Yeah.
That makes me sad. It's the worst. So,
But then you learn from that, and then you can draw from that as well, even to write. Mm-hmm. And you don't. Do you always write from a place of disappointment or sadness, or is it?
No, I do quite a lot.
Do you think it's easier, or? Because a lot of artists and songwriters do fall into that, where it's just, you know.
Yeah, I just experienced more of that than the other, which is a sad thing to say.
Yeah.
But I have, or that's how it feels anyway. The human brain is wired to remember the shit stuff that happens.
True.
So, you know, I'm very, very fortunate, and I've got wonderfulness. But I've got a lyric in one of my new songs. What is it? Oh, what is it? So much can go wrong, and it usually does.
Sod's law.
Yeah. So I draw from that a lot. And I also, a lot of my writing is about, lately for my projects, it's been quite self-exploratory, which is quite new for me. But it's also about a yearning. It's about things that I imagine would be wonderful, and I imagine what they would feel like, and I write about that.
Okay.
I think there always has to be a yearning. If you have everything, then I feel like that's just an off button for your creativity. I think would be for me anyway.
Definitely, yeah. So just dialing back, because in terms of the story, I think you were about 15 or 16 picking up a guitar. What was the journey from there to getting your first big record out?
So my memory's really crap, but I
So is
remember going on the internet, dial up internet, out in the sticks, and putting an advert on a website for like a forum type thing. I remember it being a super shitty, really simple website, saying, "Hi, I'm 21 and I like this kind of music and I want to work with producers." I don't know why I went, sorry. I didn't really know how it all works, and there were certainly no producers like down the lane from me. So I put an advert on there, and this guy got back to me. He was up in Nottingham, and I went up and met him. We started working together, and those times MySpace was the place to be.
Yeah.
So I was there, and I put some stuff up, and it's quite convoluted, but I got myself a fan. I had a fan called Johnny, and he was also a fan of DJ B's One Extra radio show. And I was writing kind of neo-soul-y stuff, and that's the kind of stuff that was on that show, I think. So he contacted DJ B and was like, "You should listen to this girl." DJ
So
B,
this is a fan?
a fan of mine, yeah.
Oh, sick.
And then DJ B did listen to my stuff, and he didn't like it, apart from this one song called Switching Lanes, which is still there. And I performed it live a few times in my life. I haven't done much live stuff. But people love that song. I don't anymore, because it's really old and it's a bit too soft for me now.
Right.
But he heard that and he was like, "Ooh, that does things to me. I think I want to be a manager." So I went down and met him, and he's now Barry. You know Barry.
Ah, there you go. So
And
that was from then?
Yeah, man.
Wow.
I've always been with Barry.
That's amazing. It's a rare story as well, isn't it? In this industry.
Really wriggly. It's like, yeah, in management you often hop around.
Right.
But so I went down to London, Victoria, and met him.
Was that your first time in London? Or she was
Probably
in and
not,
out?
'cause my sister was down there.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't go there very much. It was a big, scary, otherworldly place.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, because obviously you'd grown up in such a rural setting, and it's fields and like sky, and it's open. What did it feel like coming into such a claustrophobic
Well,
environment?
I was always I was never going to stay put, because there was nothing to do as a teenager or like a young lady. Young lady. And I didn't go to university. I always thought I would, and then I got to application point and I was like, "Oh God, I don't really want to do any of that, and it's expensive, so I'm not gonna. My parents supported that, which was nice. So I just started doing normal jobs. And my point was, but then because I wasn't going to university, that would have been I'm going to go to this city. So that would be my leaving home time. That didn't happen. But I was DJing at the time, hip hop and R&B and bashment and garage and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
And I played a little bit in Worcester, but it was a bit lame. So I wanted to move to Birmingham for better job opportunities and better DJing opportunities, and just to get away. I was with somebody at the time, and he didn't want to go, and I was like, well, I'm going to go. I'd like you to come with me, but if you don't, I'm still going to go.
Yeah.
And we went. And so Birmingham was like the precursor, but it's still nothing like London. And then it was my management after 2 or 3 years, 2-3 years, they were like, mate, you need to be down here. And I was like, but I can commute. I can get the train. I like getting the train. I'm scared. But then I just grew some balls and came down. Unfortunately, my sister was already living in Tottenham, so I stayed with her for about 8 months or so. Before signing my publishing deal and having my number one.
Yeah, so how did that?
That was a song, by the time it charted, was already 3 years old. I'd written that when I was back in Birmingham.
And that was Don't Go by Wretch 3-2.
Yeah. And it was a song, it was a verse, chorus, verse song that I'd produced at home. So I'd heard it in my head. That's why I started producing, was I didn't always have access to producers. So I had to do it myself. I wasn't very good at it, but I could sort of put the bare bones together. And it was me and my management, we all really liked it, but we didn't really know what it was. And then it was just brilliant A&Ring from Wretch's people and my people and Wretch himself to make it what it became. And I actually don't feel like I have that much ownership over it, because I never would have had that vision for it.
Right.
But I like the fact that a lot of the hodgepodge production ideas that I had, because I didn't know better, remained in the eventual version. Like I couldn't find a bass sound I liked, so I just used my voice and pitched it down. And I used a lot of vocals in there as pads, because I couldn't find a pad sound that I liked.
Right. Restriction breeds creativity.
Yeah, it does. I first made it with one studio monitor, because the other one blew at a house party, because it got turned up too loud. My headphones, I was really skint. Like, my headphones were dangly. You know when they get dangly?
I've been there.
Yeah,
Yep.
and they're kind of like
yeah.
balancing them on your shoulder.
Been there.
And just not really knowing what I was doing, but having an idea that I wouldn't let go of, I guess. So yeah, Don't Go was my first proper cut, and it was number one. So that was really cool. I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
I did not believe it. Everyone was, they have I don't know if it's the same anymore, but they had the midweek charts, and they'd be like, well, it's number one at midweek, so it's going to be number one. I was like, you don't know that. You don't say that.
Don't say that. Yeah.
And so I was listening to, when is it, Friday? Was it Friday or Sunday? It was Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday.
I was there listening. I was like, is it gonna?
So where was you, like Radio 1 or?
Pardon?
Where were you when?
I was at my sister's.
Oh, nice.
Had some friends around listening, having a little barbecue or something. And yeah, it was up against Heaven by Emily Sandé. Yeah, which was a great song. Love that song.
Yeah.
And that was at number 2. So that was a good day. That was a weird day.
Yeah, what did that feel like?
Mental. A bit quite emotional. I was like, oh, it was relief. Again, it was the relief. It's like, oh my God. Oh, thank goodness. It works. It can work.
I'm not crazy.
Yeah. It was a massive relief. So that was
because
that.
also for people that are listening that don't really understand or that aren't well versed in the music industry, at any point up until that moment, it could have all gone wrong. It could have the song might not have come out.
Yeah, I questioned myself, oh, there were some dark times, man. When I've quit my job, I already had a mortgage at that point. I was very fortunate. But I was like, what am I doing? And I was like on my own a lot. It was actually in the wake. I mean, it was in the wake of my dad's death and stuff.
Oh, wow.
It was just a weird time. I was like, I think I'm good at this, but I don't really know. I spent lots of time on my own. I wasn't the happiest little person ever. And I didn't know anyone else who was doing a similar thing because I was still in Birmingham and, you know, the whole scene is in London.
Yeah.
So there was so many times when I felt like every time I saw my friends, I was just like, guys, this is bad.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'm going crazy. I don't feel good about myself. I'm not sure if I'm any good. Lots of that. Mm-hmm. But I didn't see it as a choice. I was like, I've made my choice to quit my job. I can always get another job, but I can't get another job. I really need this to work.
Yeah.
So practically there was a choice there, but I couldn't feel it. It didn't feel like one. I was like, no, I need to make this work.
Absolutely.
So I just cracked on.
Wow. That's crazy. So how did because you said that you got the publishing deal and then the song went to number one.
Yeah. So I think
did it happen in that order, or was it?
I think they knew the setup was good. They knew it was going to do well. So they sort of signed me around, you know, off the back of it.
Right.
Type thing.
Yeah.
Or in anticipation of it. Yeah.
And was that moment another relief moment? Was you familiar with how publishing worked at that point? Sort
of.
From my angle, when that all happened, I didn't quite know what it was. So when it was offered, I was like,
so it's basically just doing more of what you've been doing.
Yeah.
But you get an advance. Oh, the advance. The advance meant that I could move out of my sister's and that I didn't have to do part-time work and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the main thing. I was
driver.
like, oh my gosh, money.
Money
for my music.
Yeah. I'm now doing this as a professional.
Yeah. Yeah. And when people invest in you, generally you're like, oh, good. Again, relief. Yay.
Yeah, for sure. And that can quickly turn into like self-doubt.
Self-loathing.
Yeah. After a while.
Hatred for the industry.
Yeah. Exactly.
No, I didn't say that. I do not mean that.
Once the hype kind of dies down, isn't it?
Yeah. It's just like, oh, okay, I just need to continue doing what I'm doing. And the self-doubt remains. And the uncertainty never goes away. It's always on you as a creative. It always is on you. And it's amazing when you've got a great team. But it comes down to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I think when you do partner or sign with bigger companies, I think the expectancy as a creative is, oh, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. But like you said, it comes down to you. You've got to carry on. You've got to keep your foot on the gas. Yeah.
For me, I think there was definitely and I still have it now. I think coming from such a tiny middle of nowhere community, from a family that's not musical or never pushed me in this direction, I was like, oh God, am I? Because you kind of want, once the machine gets involved, you think, okay, the machine can help me now. But then you're like, oh no, I have to be the machine. But I'm just a tiny, freckly weirdo from nowhere who doesn't know what they're doing. I thought that I was going to get loads of help now, and I'm not.
No.
And I need to pretend that I know.
Yeah. How did you deal with that? Because it's even hard as a creative in the industry to understand how it all works, and it's harder for people around, family, friends, people that don't understand the inner workings of the music industry. How did that affect the expectancy of you as a person in terms of like social engagements? And
what do you mean?
Like, I had it a lot where it was like, oh, well, it's all right for you. Like,
did you?
Yeah.
That's
it's not
shit.
Yeah, it's like, it's all right for you. That's not like a real job. Not in those words, but you know.
Do you know what? I've been quite lucky. I haven't had many haters. I don't think. I've had a lot of my family sort of They don't really. I don't think they really understand. You can't really unless you're in it. But they're supportive.
Absolutely.
And
No,
my
I've definitely
friends
had
are the
supportive
same. They
family,
don't get it until sorry, just spoke over you.
No, I spoke of you. That's my bad.
They can't get their head around that I don't get paid to go to work, to go into sessions. Like, do you get paid to go and write songs? I'm like, no, I don't. Obviously, you get the advance, which is like a bit of a salary in advance, but that might have to last you an awfully long time. Awfully long time. And yeah, they don't get it, but I like to think that I have a nose for good people, and I have zero tolerance for dickheads. So I surround myself with the right folks generally.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So I'm sorry that was people's attitudes with you.
Well, it wasn't that blatant. I don't think the intention was ever like that. But I just think there's a lack of understanding, because
and a bit of envy, maybe.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was difficult to deal with. But I was just wondered if you went through the same thing.
You'll always. The only example I can think of is when I was leaving my proper job in quote marks. I think a lot of sort of people higher up, management and stuff, they thought, girl have to write songs.
Yeah.
Silly girl. Who does she think she is?
How's your little music thing going?
But that's fine. That's all right. I don't care about those people.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Good. So you've had a number one. How many, was that like one of your first things that went out there, or in terms of releases? Or?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
I think, because I haven't had many cuts at all. My cuts are few and far between, and when I do get them, thankfully, I have quite good chunks of them. I had 100% for Girls Aloud, which is pretty cool.
That's pretty unheard of.
Yeah, I know.
Nowadays.
I know. I wrote it on my own at home, and they cut it as close to the demo as they could.
Amazing.
And it's pretty much one of the only ballads they've ever sung. So that was great. So yeah, when I do have cuts, they tend to be, as Barry, my manager, keeps reminding me, good quality. Good quality cuts. You might not have many, Maiday, but they're good quality.
Yeah.
I'm like, but I want more. I want one every month. I at least want one a year. That would be good.
Yeah.
That would help keep me sane.
Yes, because it is difficult.
Managing the gaps. The gaps are where the crazy happens.
Managing the gap. Wow.
Please manage the gap.
Yeah, please.
Oh, okay. How the hell do I do that? It's just me and my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously it depends on what situation you're in. I'm talking to everyone here. As a creative, but minding the gaps, like financially especially, is very difficult.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's spoken about a lot, because obviously in the music industry or in creative industries, you're essentially a freelancer.
Yeah.
And you're hired. You're not paid for your time, but you're paid for the end product. And that might be
Hopefully you're paid at
caveat,
some point.
Caveat. Hopefully you're paid at some point for your work. And it is a very back end industry, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's difficult. Maybe that's another podcast to explore that topic.
Yeah, finances, you got to be smart about it. And I remember when I signed my first publishing deal, Barry was like, "You're going to do publishing shopping?" I'm like, "Mate, I can pay rent now. I'm going to keep hold of that so that I can pay rent, because we both know I need to be down here." So
Smart.
I've always been, that's part of my upbringing. I can thank my parents for that. Holding on to money is as important, if not more so, than making it.
Especially as a creative.
Yeah.
I might have to get my accountant on to help people out on that, because
That's a good idea.
yeah, Because it's not something that's really spoken
It's
of.
not all flipping airy fairy. Oh, I have an idea. I'm going to make £1 million.
Yeah.
It's like you've got to be smart. You've got to be careful, and you've got to really look after that side of things. Otherwise, it's going to be doubly hard. It's much harder. You know, you want to be able to focus on doing what you're good at and what people want from you. All good, getting a part-time job if you need to, do what you got to do, but it's really good if you can hold on to your money and just focus on one thing.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Cool. So do you have any particular creative rituals?
No, I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
And I've thought about it lots because I feel like everyone else has one, or like I should have one. But no, I'll often go into a session. If I'm writing for someone else, it's useful to have some little nuggets to draw from if they're a bit stuck or if you're kind of struggling. But
So is that, do you do that by like voice notes or?
I just write things in my phone or in my little books. Sometimes voice notes, but usually it's words. So if I do find a melody, then I'll sing that into my phone or something. But
This is the second time this has
Oliver is joining.
This happened with True Tiger as well.
Oh no! Now we have doggy drool on
Maybe we should rename the podcast Musicians and Dogs.
Hi, mate. I'm doing a podcast. You can't join. Well, you are joining. But yeah, no, I don't think I do. I like to go into a room and, like you say, you got a friend. Have a little chat, figure out if the other person has any particular ideas, and if not, just find a sound or some chords. That moment where you're like, okay, chord time. And then see what comes out.
Yeah.
That often informs whatever sound they use or chords they find informs what you write about.
And also the mood.
Yeah.
Does it differ if you're writing alone? Or is it more something that just flows?
Sometimes it flows, sometimes it doesn't flow. When I'm on my own, I get sent quite a lot of tracks. So I'll go through those and see if anything tickles my fancy, tickles my pickle, floats my boat. And if it does, I'll start putting ideas down. Or today, for the first time in ages, I hardly ever pick up my guitar because I've often got like silly long nails on or whatever. But today I picked up my guitar, sat at that window, looked out the window and just started playing with a few ideas. It was really nice. Haven't done that for ages.
Therapeutic.
And your brain works in a completely different way, I think, when you do that.
How?
I don't know. One thing that I struggle, there's a definite benefit. So my surroundings make a big difference for me. And when I was living in Bow for 5 years, it was fine, but it was very built up, very city-ish, a little bit bleak at times. And there was no distance to look into because everything was very high and very close together. Blocks of flats everywhere and narrow streets and not much greenery. And
Which
for
is pretty
someone,
much the opposite of how you grew up.
Yeah. And even I think it's creates a climate in cities that a lot of people maybe won't notice, but having everything moving fast and everything close together and built up and modern and man-made, I don't think is great for your brain. For a time, if you want to be in go, go, go mode, it's fine. But there is a definite, that something changes in my brain at least, and I think in a lot of people's so imagine trying to write a song or trying to be expansive with your mind in a small windowless room in the middle of a city, or imagine trying to do that sat on a hill looking out over an amazing vista or whatever you want to call it. It does, you use, your brain opens up, I think.
It does, yeah.
So where I'm living now is a bit more open, a bit more leafy, and I have a window I can look out of, and it just helps, I think.
No, it really does. It's inspiring. Like we kind of touched upon earlier. I don't know if we recorded it or not, but your environment really does affect you, and it affects the way your brain works, and
you won't always notice.
No,
you
and
might
it's
not
like
really know why you feel this way or that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, why do I feel that way, or why am I tense? Or the thing is, sometimes you don't even realize it. Do you know what I mean?
I didn't realize it for ages.
Yeah.
I wondered why, I'd have really big long bouts of being stuck. I mean, writer's block, everyone gets it, but I definitely think my environment where I wasn't ideal for me personally. But that's where, a lot of studios are small windowless rooms in built up areas. And so that's when having a little nugget to bring in with you, or having a bit more experience under your belt to draw from, helps, because you're prepped, even if you might not feel that you are. You are. Whereas if you're in an environment that suits you better and that is more visually beautiful and inspiring, then you can rely a little bit more on that to inspire you.
I think so.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think life in general inspires. I think as creatives, it's easy just to get stuck in that room where we're expected to create without having lived any life or had conversations or seen different things to actually draw from. So when you are
that's
in
why
that
I find
room,
it mental how artists, it's that in commercial pop world you're supposed to be young, because it's like the fountain of youth. It's what's attractive, it's what sells, it's what looks good, it's kind of. But I have always, as I mentioned, like when I was little, listening to these women singing about their lives, and they'd had lives and they could talk about them. I've always been attracted to the company of older people. At school, I always wanted to be friends with the older kids. I had an older sister, like I said, who I just wanted to be and looked up to. And I've always liked to listen to older artists because I believe them. I believe them. They've seen stuff, done stuff, and they have stuff to talk about. That's why I feel like I'm in a better space now, because I am now older and got stuff to talk about. Yeah. Confidently, I guess.
Yeah. Do you feel it's coming from a place of authenticity?
Authenticity is the one. It's my world. I struggle a lot with... I don't think the industry... There's loads of really great people in it. There's loads of really authentic people in it. There's also lots of the other. And it's built... A lot of it is, how things look, and about hype, and about scenes and
trends,
aesthetic. I get it. I love an aesthetic as much as the next person, but it has to be backed up with authenticity. I need to, even if the person hasn't, like, let's say Mary J. Blige versus Beyonce. I mean, maybe I shouldn't go there. I have one friend who will not thank me for saying this. But I love Beyonce. She's incredible. But I don't believe her most of the time. Right. I don't, I can't. How do you get under Beyonce's skin? Who is she? Nobody really knows. And that's fine. Not every celebrity or famous person or superstar has to divulge all the minutiae of their lives. But when Mary J. Blige sings, even if she hasn't written that thing, I fucking believe every word. There's... I much prefer to listen to people who might not be technically brilliant. Maybe they are. But if they sing a bum note, but they mean it, I'm in. That's how I see things.
I love that. I love that. No, I feel the same way. And I do feel that we're in a place, fortunately, where I think authenticity is shining through more and more.
Do you
because
I think people are craving it.
I believe so, because there's so much noise, and I think that authenticity is what cuts through. I think that's what people are yearning for.
Is my mouth too close to the thing?
No, you're talking quite quietly.
Okay.
So that's all right.
It's quite comfy. Got my germs on it now.
My germs.
My germs. Take my strong hand.
How do you know when something's good when you're writing it? How do you know when to either keep it or bin it?
That's a tricky one. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'll think something's rubbish, and then I'll come back to it the next day or in 2 years, and I'll be like, oh my God, it's great. What was I thinking? And vice versa. That happens a lot, and that's disappointing. When you're in the room, you're like, oh man, this is the best thing I've ever done. This is the best thing that's ever happened in a room ever. And then a week later, you're like, oh no.
Fresh ears.
Yeah. But occasionally, very occasionally, because I'm not certain about anything. I'm a very grey area person, and I think it's important to look at things from all angles and to imagine that you really know something 100% is presumptuous a lot of the time. So with songs, sometimes I'm like, well, maybe it's good. Maybe someone else, like with Don't Go, I never heard it going where it went. But it ended up in a great place. So, but occasionally I'll write something and I'll just be like, oh, there's a feeling. It's like, it's a physical thing. When I write something that I think is great, because I'm super critical, as you know.
Yeah.
But when I think I've nailed something, there's like this little rush that is like a shiver, and I'm like,
is it like a cold shiver or?
It's like just tingly, and I'm like, oh, that's good, that's got legs, and it's happened a few times in sessions, and then. Those songs, I mean, a lot of those, that's happened lots of times, and those songs have not seen the light of day. I believe that they will, though. My cut that I had last year, At My Best with Machine Gun Kelly, is a 5-year-old song. But I always knew that it had legs and it was going to do something.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, often I'll write something that I just won't care about at all, and it will get cut, or other people will really, really love it, and I'll be like, really? That's not my best work right there.
Yeah.
But it's hard to gauge. But when you get that little tingly thing, even if it's just your sense of achievement, of your sense of absolutely nailing what you were trying to get at, sometimes that's enough.
It's a good feeling.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen often.
No.
For me, it's like, I don't know if it's like an adrenaline rush or something, but it comes from like the center of my chest. It gets really hot.
Really?
Yeah. When something's good and it's like, whew, it's crazy. So I was really interested to hear if it was a physical reaction, which it was for you.
Yeah.
But it's like.
But it's like a wave. I like a shiny wave.
Find myself picking up the pieces of me that you discarded. So this is what they talk about when they say broken-hearted. Thought I was a together kind of person, the type who had a handle. As fate would have it, I'm exploding like a Roman candle. And it's pretty in the sky. Such a beautiful way to die. But I want my sparkle back. Why does it always fade to black?
It was like the last little bit to the puzzle.
I was going to say that. That was the word I was going to use for your songwriting. And it is almost like the last puzzle piece. Like, for example, your song Fade with Jack Wobb. The way that, because it's an unconventional way of writing, first and foremost. Like you said, it's quite wordy, and in a pop song, you wouldn't expect that. But every lyric, every word is purposeful, and it leads, like, you can hear what you're saying, you know what the story is. And once it gets into the chorus, it's like, yes!
That was
proper resolves.
That
like,
one, I love that song dearly. It it's one about disappointment, really. But that one was quite a flow of consciousness that just so happened to work rhythmically and melodically and stuff.
Yeah.
I recorded that when I was still staying with my sister, and I was in the spare room, I think they'd gone to bed, and I had to whisper record it straight into my laptop.
Really?
Yeah. So because it wasn't something I'd say I super crafted. There was craft in there, but a lot of it was just a flow of things. I can listen to that now and appreciate it as something other than me, because I can listen to it.
Yeah.
I appreciate it because I'm like, oh, I don't think I could write that now. I'm not sure how I did that.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely relate to that, because often, like, you do sit with these songs for years, 5 years for your song that just come out. The song that I just got out with Autograph and Klingan, Hope for Tomorrow, 4 years we had that song, and you have so many different versions and all of that, and it's not until it's out and you've stepped away from it and you start to hear it as the world hears it, and it's like, right,
and that's a weird phenomenon as well. How something can, so if you do something in a session and you might really like it or you might not really like it, but then you send it to someone, and and even knowing that someone else is going to hear it changes the way you hear it.
Yeah.
And then their feedback might change the way that you listen to it. And the same with releasing something. I'd love to know what happens in your brain when that happens. But even I was in a session yesterday, and we were talking about how even if you have the beat playing and you leave the room and you can hear it down the corridor, it sounds different. You hear it differently, and you can come back in. You can hear what's missing or what needs to be added. It's really bizarre. Yep,
I do it all the time. I love to record when I'm in the studio. I'll record like melodies and stuff on my phone while the beat's playing. Go into a corridor somewhere out and hear it back. You always hear different things. As a producer, you hear like different sounds. I need to do this, this, and this.
Yeah.
I start to hear different pockets in terms of like where I can put melodies. It's just, it's
weird,
like a stepping away.
Yeah.
It's really bizarre. Also, another thing that I found as well is stopping music while you're in mid-flow, being silent for a bit and seeing what comes up in your head. Because oftentimes it just starts to dictate. It's crazy.
Yeah. Going for a wee in a session.
Yes.
Going for a wee is so important. I mean, physiologically, you got to go for a wee. But going out of the room into a quiet space, sitting down, doing your stuff. Yeah. So many ideas come to me that have been bugging me in the room when I'm having a wee. Yeah. I think it's mainly a stepping out. Like even if you're going out for a cigarette, like a lot of people use that as a break from the session and to kind of clear your mind a little bit. But definitely, or even stopping what you're doing and listening to something entirely different and then coming back to it. Yep. That helps as well.
It really does.
Because otherwise don't know if you lose perspective, but maybe you get too embroiled in the minutiae of what you're doing in that moment. And you forget.
Just different things come up. Ego, it's that self-reflection comes up, and I think when you hear something for the first time, it's just inspiration hits. So it's kind of hitting that for the first time. It's like I worked with Andrea Martin.
Did you?
Yeah.
She's a legend. She is so cool. I've never met her. I would love to meet her.
Yeah, that would be amazing for you.
Yeah. So that would be amazing for you. I've met her.
No, I didn't mean it like that. I just meant like with that, Maiday. You'd write the sickest song together. So for people that don't know, she's a legendary songwriter. She wrote In Vogue, Don't Let Go, which probably everyone in the world has heard. But the way she approaches songwriting is, I don't want to hear no beats. Put me in the booth and press play. And she freestyles everything.
Really?
It's all off the dome.
I love that. That is not something I'm good at all. I'm too uptight to do that.
I can do that with melodies, not with lyrics. I can maybe I'll utter lyrics like little phrases.
Yeah.
But again, I do like the pop way in terms of melody and then fitting the lyrics to it afterwards.
And amazing things like the cruxes or the seeds of a great song can come out from someone's subconscious when they're just spouting what might otherwise be nonsense, and then often it's down to either them or the producer to be like, that bit, let's use that and build on that. I'm not good at it. It's my whole thing about being quiet and focusing on what I'm going to say, and it has to be good, it has to be smart. And sometimes I do wish I could just blurt out a bunch of stuff and see what that would create, I suppose. But I'm too shy. I think I'm too shy for it. I'm not self-confident. I'm just like, it's just all going to be bollocks.
Yeah.
And maybe it wouldn't be. And I'll probably push myself to try that a bit more, because you should always try different stuff, even if it's not in your comfort zone.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I found that amazing. Incredible.
What a G.
What a G indeed. Do you have any fears that come up when you are writing or creating?
Yes. Less so these days. Depends. If it's like a high profile session, I just want to impress people. I want them to like me. I want them to work with me, to want to work with me again. And I want to make the most of the opportunity. And I'll be quite hard on myself if I feel like I haven't. You know, I've worked with Rodney Jerkins before.
How was that?
I mean, it was great. But I kind of fluffed it. I was too starstruck, I think. And I just felt completely inferior and not worthy. So I kind of fluffed it.
Was that over here or?
Yeah.
It was over here.
My fears, I wouldn't call them fears. It's just, there are insecurities, I guess. Always about how good you are and whether you should be enough there. And yeah. Or whether you're going to be liked. And I don't care about that quite so much anymore. As we talked about earlier, once you hit 30, that starts to dwindle a little bit. But you never want to leave the room thinking that you've done yourself a mischief or that you've not done yourself justice as a person, let alone a writer. And I've had some sessions where I feel like I've come across negative, or I've come across grumpy, or I haven't communicated well, or I've made someone else feel a way, and it would never be my intention, but then I'll really beat myself up about the possibility that I had.
Oh, right.
So those are things, I wouldn't say they're fears, but they're things I try and avoid and try and work on and make sure that that's not the environment I create. I want to do the opposite of that. I want to make people feel good about themselves, like they're able, like they can trust me, but also that their ideas are invaluable as well. I've started to work with a lot more young female writers because there aren't that many women in rooms in music compared to men, as with all industries, really. But imagine being a young writer who wants to say something specific, maybe about her life, her personal life, her relationship, and she's just got this dude at the computer that she might not want to talk to about it. She might not want to open up to about it. And I really like being that other woman in the room who can be like, so what's going on with you? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Do you have a boyfriend? Do you have a girlfriend?
Yeah.
How's it going? What's your relationship like with your parents? Like, sometimes it doesn't always have to get that deep, but I've become quite a good judge of, I think, if when people are holding back, or if they're a bit shy, or if they have got something on their mind, I'm like, you can tell me, you don't have to, but you know, that's the good shit for writing. So we can go there if you want. And so I really enjoy that, and kind of, I almost feel a little bit maternal about it. It's weird. I would just want them to be okay, and I want them to feel empowered and interested and interesting and valuable, and also know that I've been there, and I don't know it all, but I know some stuff and I can help, I guess.
So is that mainly artists, or is that writers as well?
Artists usually, because other writers, it's interesting actually. I don't work with other top line writers generally, because I prefer not to. Or I haven't really met my match or my sort of the ideal co-writer in that sense, because I have such a way of writing. It can be a little bit rigid, or it doesn't quite mesh with other people's way. But actually, if there was another writer in the room, I wouldn't feel it was my job so much to make them feel any particular way, because we're on a level. We're both there to write.
Right.
Whereas when it's an artist and you're there to help bring out their... Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. You're there to help, not extract, but...
fine-tune.
Yeah,
and draw, yeah, almost like a bit of a therapy sort of role.
That's what it's like.
Yeah. So...
And I've had sessions, I mean, I'm talking from like the male perspective now, because obviously it is a very male-dominated environment. And I think this comes with age as well, because this is different, because now I'm an older, quote-unquote, producer. When I do have these conversations with younger female artists, they know I'm not trying anything, because I'm honestly not coming from that place at all. It's more of like, are you in a relationship? Things like that. That's not me asking, are you in a relationship?
Want to go on a date?
Right. It's me asking,
what's
going on? Right. what's going on in your life? You know? And I've found through my experience that, I guess because of my age, that they're more willing to be open. Yeah. And then you get more out of the session.
But that's also your character. You're a nice guy. You're a genuine, nice bloke. And
thank you.
That shines out of your face. You're not predatory in any sense of the word. I'm just going to turn the heating down.
Obviously, we know that in the creative industries, things can go wrong.
Can they? No.
Can you tell me, you don't have to go into it, but a time where things have gone wrong and it's like really stressful? How did you deal with that? And then how did you get out of that?
Oh, man. Do you mean like on the day or over a period of time?
Probably over the period of time.
Okay. And when you say things going wrong, what do you mean?
I suppose things not going the way you expect it.
Okay. Well, that's my life. That's most people's life, right?
Yeah.
I've learned a lot of patience. It's a double-edged sword. It's kind of you learn how to manage your expectations, but also you learn not to get excited, which is a shame. But I've learned that, unless it's been released, unless it is officially out there for people to buy and listen to, I'm not taking it as a given that it's going to happen.
Yeah. You do save yourself disappointment that way.
Yeah.
When you hold yourself back from excitement at the same time.
Yeah, I know.
It's the double-edged sword.
What was things not going my way. To be honest, I mean, I've looked at things not going my way is a really broad. Or things going wrong is a really broad. I mean, I was signed for 2 years to a major label, and it didn't go horrendously badly, but it didn't go anywhere. And that was hard to manage. In retrospect, I wasn't, even though I was sort of in my late 20s, I wasn't ready. I didn't really know what was expected of me, or the things that were expected of me didn't really sit well with me as a person or an artist, if you like. And so I came out of that relatively well financially, and I kept all of my material because they hadn't really put any hands on it, so it was still all mine.
That's good.
But that came, so there was that. There was like a build-up of difficulty over the years, and then I think I would try different ways to manage it, i.e. working harder, or taking a step back a bit more often, or doing yoga, or changing my diet, because all of these things affect how you think and how your outlook. Different stuff, and then I just ran out. I ran out of energy, and I kind of stopped for about 6 months. And at the time, it felt like that was never going to end, and it felt like everything had stopped, and that it wasn't going to change, and it was really bleak. But you have to, I think, sometimes go through that stuff to come out the other side with a better perspective on things, or just with a more rounded knowledge about how wrong things can go for you, or how wrong things can feel for you, and
Good
knowing
distinction.
that you can come out the other side. I think one thing that helped was a new publishing deal. By the time that was on the table, I was already sort of gathering up sort of my energy again and kind of getting off the sofa, at least. That sometimes you just have to be on your ass for a bit to know what it feels like to be better, and to feel better, and to have things to look forward to and things to work towards, and then crack on with that. It's perseverance and resilience are two of the things that you can't do this without those, and you need a shitload of them, I think.
Absolutely.
So if things go wrong, let them acknowledge that they've gone wrong, feel it, go through it. Don't ignore it, don't brush it under the rug, because it will follow you, unless you look it in the eye and go, oh, you're terrifying and you hurt and I don't know what to do with you, but maybe that's okay. And then let it sort of, try not to dwell, but let it run its course, and then come out the other side and crack on again.
Definitely. I think people underrate going through things like that. There's so much value in those situations, because 9 times out of 10, there's a lesson that you needed to learn in that situation that you weren't going to learn in another way.
Yeah.
And it's not until you emerge from it and you heal from it and you look back, like you said, it's like, oh, that actually kind of helped.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, could have done without that. that was really shit.
Yeah.
That lasted a bit too long.
Yeah, I could have read about that.
Yeah. But you do have to be philosophical about it. And it does inform the more sort of the darker corners of your experiences that you might not have gone into otherwise.
If you could go back to the last day of secondary school, year 11, I've got hair on this microphone, that's what I've been looking at this whole time, and you could speak to Maiday, year 11, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give yourself?
What was I even thinking? Because I'm not one of these people that's always known they were going to be doing this. I would say when you go to an African country, don't come back with braids.
Is that what you did?
Don't do that. Well, actually, I mean, that's like a rite of passage, isn't it, for a white person going to an African country?
Where did you go?
I know this isn't music related. Ghana. But yeah, that was a bad look for me. So I'd be like, don't do that. That was silly of you. What else? I would probably say, Malden, this is going to be hard. You're not going to like a lot of it, but you're good. And your music, your songs, maybe only a handful of people, maybe lots of people. I have no gauge on that. But it does good. It's going to be good. People are going to benefit from what you're doing. And so just focus on that. Although, no, probably, I don't know.
I love that, though.
Do you?
Yeah. Yeah. Good little pep talk.
Yeah.
No, I love
You're
that.
like, this is going to be hard. It's going to be hard, Rachel. So
Get ready.
man up. Yeah.
It's such a winding road that you've been down.
I think so.
And I love it because, like you said, you didn't know that it was going to end up that way. It's like one thing's informed the other. Constantly.
Yeah, none of this is all really wriggly. I don't know. Because I'm self-taught in everything. I don't really like, I don't like the idea of, or the reality of being taught anything musical particularly, unless I'm in the room with someone, I'm like, oh, that is cool. How do you do that? So I think when you're self-taught, unless you're naturally gifted on an instrument or on software or whatever the medium is, it's going to take you longer. And so maybe that's why it's all been very incremental and gradual, and it's taken its time. But I kind of like it for that reason, I think.
Yeah.
What if I'd achieved everything I wanted to achieve already? Then what would I do? I don't know, probably have a baby. Probably get married and have a baby.
Yeah.
Is that a bad thing to say?
No, not at all.
Okay.
But I mean, it goes the way it goes.
Yeah.
And your journey is your journey. You can't really compare it to anybody else, and you can't compare it even to the idea that you may have had as a younger person.
I do think I definitely could have worked harder. Definitely could have.
I think I could have as well. I think around that age, I refused to go and learn things because I thought I knew it, or that by learning it, it was going to restrict my ideas. Kind of going into it with a beginner's mindset, which is good, because you don't know what rules you're breaking. But at the same time, it is good to be informed. Like, by the time I got publishing, I should have known what it was. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
a lot of people don't know. I think that's quite normal. I remember at my last proper job, office job, my boss pulling me aside one time and pointing out that I was great as long as I was doing something I wanted to do. If it was a task that I didn't really want to do, I was rubbish, and I would just leave it and leave it and leave it, and I'd sort of be half-assed about it. And it's the same with everything. I was naturally really fascinated by writing and words and reading and stuff. So I just did loads of that and got good at it because I loved it. Whereas the other stuff that's a bit more it doesn't come as naturally to me, like playing guitar. You know, it hurts your fingers. You got to have short nails. It's kind of just hard. It takes ages, and I'm not very good at applying myself to those things, and I wish I was a bit more.
Yeah, I'm the same with piano.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like you do have to apply yourself for a long time and force that muscle, you know. It does work over time, but you do have to keep it up.
I love the sight of a person at a piano performing a song. It has a magic to it because it's the thing, everything from the piano through the fingers, up the arms, into the person, and then the song coming out of their mouth. It just feels magic-y. So I've always wanted to be one of those people. However, I'm not very good on piano and I don't care to practice. But I did a show a couple of years ago and I really wanted to perform this one song. It's quite a jazzy one on piano, and I just practiced that and practiced it and practiced it and practiced it. And I got quite good. And then after the show was done, I stopped, and I can't for the life of me remember.
It's like learning languages, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I actually went wrong that night. I started playing it and I kind of went to a wrong place. I was like, oh, sorry guys, can I start again?
Did you?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they really like that apparently, because
I think people like it's just being genuine, isn't it?
Yeah.
People gravitate. No one's perfect.
I hope not.
No one's perfect. Talking about perfect, who is your favourite songwriter? Or do you have one?
I don't really do favourites. Because everybody does things so differently. I appreciate lots of different things for different reasons. I mean, I'm a big fan of Carole King. Because she's great. Come on, brain.
Work.
Diane Warren.
I thought you would say Diane Warren.
Emily Sandé, the more modern one.
Yes.
She's great. When Whenever I'm asked for these kinds of questions, for either a list or like a certain one, I can never think. But there are a few.
Happens to me as well.
Frank Ocean. I love Frank Ocean. But I wouldn't say that he's the greatest songwriter. But his first Nostalgia Ultra mixtape just blew my mind. And I love him for that.
Now you've gone through this whole process this whole conversation.
Mm-hmm. This whole chore.
Chore, yeah. It's been a chore with our red wine and the dogs. Who would you be interested in hearing answer these questions?
The same questions you've given me. Anyone in the world?
Good answer. Was that a question or an answer?
That was a question.
Okay, good question. It was kind of like the inflection was anyone in the world. Full stop.
I don't know. I don't have an answer for that.
Okay, that's fine. Cool. I've learnt a lot.
Have you really?
I have, yeah.
Are you being nice? You're always really nice to me. But I believe you because you are authentic. Like
I am
we talked
authentic.
about.
I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it. No, I really have. And it's actually going to help my songwriting as well. So
I want to hear some.
Yeah, I've got to play you some.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, where can people find you? You don't want people stalking you, but online, where can they find you?
My address is I'm Maiday Music on Instagram. That's where I'm on Twitter. I don't really use it. I'm on Facebook. I don't really use that. What am I on? I think I'm Maiday Music on Facebook as well. I'm occasionally, if I've got music coming out, I'll post it all on there. Instagram, I'm kind of there spouting bollocks quite regularly. And I'm on Spotify. You just put my Maiday in and you'll find some stuff. Some songs for your ears.
Songs for your ears. And we'll stick it up in our playlist as well.
Stick it up there.
Stick it up there. Cool. No, well, thank you so much. This has been wicked. This has been really good.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Maiday.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Remember, if you haven't already, please review this podcast on Apple Podcasts and drop us a review. It really helps other people find the show.